Hi and welcome to LDF-Designs. In today's video I am preparing for a online gallery show that I'm going to be doing in November that is going to we're going to be doing some Christmas ornaments. So I am in the process of preparing up some Christmas ornaments, even though it's only September, and this is one of the early ones here that I'm doing. So I've already prepared these small boards with some, it's a mixture of concrete and drywall compound and a little bit of Kills paint. And I've gone ahead and put that mixture onto these and let that dry. And I have attached a metal hinge and a couple of other things onto this, and done a little pattern work with some colored mixture as well. So you are joining me at the point where I am starting to apply the encaustic. I'm using clear encaustic and white encaustic. So the hinge that I have attached was making the board set a little bit unevenly, which was making the wax apply unevenly, and so I had to prop it up there with my little spatula to try to help it stay level on the board. At this point I'm just creating a little texture with the encaustic on the back side of the piece, and in a moment here I'll be turning this over and working on the front. In the early stages, I had laid a little bit of paper onto the board when I was putting the concrete and drywall compound mixture on it. So it does have a little bit of Bible scriptures and some hymnal pages. And then I also used some cotton fabric and some kind of a walnut stained ink. And I had let all of that dry, and then at this point, this is where I'm putting on the encaustic. So at some points of the video you may see some of those early things showing through, but from this angle they're a little bit hard to view. So I had purchased some little rusty metal stars and bells, and they're very, very light. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere these on with the encaustic. Typically metal and encaustic the encaustic won't always hold the metal because it doesn't absorb into it. So when you are wanting to work with metal in the encaustic, just keep in mind if it's a heavier piece like that hinge, I actually have that being held onto the piece with the concrete and plaster mixture. But whereas this little metal star, I was able to have the encaustic hold it on there. Just be aware though that it does have the possibility of, coming off down the road if you don't get it secured in there well. I also have a stash of different ribbons, and they work really well with the encaustic. So at this point I found one that I liked, and I'm just measuring some off here, and then I'm going to go ahead and dip that into the encaustic and then apply it to the piece. I realized at this point that I had not put any encaustic on the edges, and so went ahead and put those encaustic on the edge of the piece really quickly before I applied the ribbon here. The ribbon was a little bit stiffer than I had expected it to be, especially with the encaustic on there. So I did have to fiddle with it quite a bit to get it where I felt like maybe it was straight and in the right position. And then when you're fusing that, it will sometimes pull the ribbon back up, or if the encaustic gets too warm, it can move the ribbon around on your encaustic. So again, if you're going to work with ribbon and the encaustic, just be aware that that can happen. I wanted to add some white encaustic to the front of the piece, but I was really enjoying that red pattern that I had created back in that initial layer before I started applying the encaustic, and found myself working around it a little bit. So ended up just applying a very small amount of white, which I then in a little bit decide to go ahead and do some etching into that, which you'll see here in just a minute. I realized that this might look a little bit more like a gift sitting under a tree if I put another piece of ribbon across there. So at this point, that's what I'm doing, is adding a second piece of ribbon, hoping it to give a little bit of a gift feeling, like a gift sitting under your Christmas tree. So here's where I'm going to go ahead and do a little etching into that white area, and I'm going to add some of that tar and vegetable oil mixture to color in those markings that I made. I wanted to be really careful not to get the tar on too much of the piece, and so was just trying to be very cautious in placing it where I wanted it. It does have a tendency to travel, and some of it moved around a little bit on me, but generally speaking, I was able to contain it in that space. So I had shut my camera off and forgot to turn it back on, but I did add this little rusty jingle bell to the hinge, and also drilled some holes in the top and added a piece of string to hang it with, along with a little bit of gold to the fabric that I had on the front of the piece. So that just about wraps this one up. I have several more of these on the table. Hope to see you next time.